So, Mr. Palmer, you are the CEO and president of the Aston Martin Group. You spend a lot of time with Nissan. I understand you spent something like 20 years with Nissan?
23 years.
23 years.
Yeah, I'm 40. This is my 40th year in the car business.
Wow.
23 of those years were spent in Nissan. Now 4 years in Aston Martin.
So how was Aston Martin when you arrived?
Aston was and is a wonderfully strong brand.
Yes.
Tremendously well loved, and an awesome reputation. But if you were to look at it from the balance sheet perspective, in 2014 it was in bad shape.
Yeah.
I knew it was in bad shape when I joined the company. It was probably in worse shape than I imagined, we had a few really tough months, even working out how to pay salaries and things. So that was really interesting. I've never been in a situation where it has been quite so bad in a very, very short time, and therefore you had the dilemma of building a company which seeks to be one of the most valuable car companies in the world.
Yes,
in one respect. We use as an example, of course, the success of Ferrari. On the other hand, was struggling to pay suppliers and pay the staff on the other, and I had to make 400 people redundant, for example. So you had this two-speed company, one that was basically looking at short-term ways to save money and create revenue.
Yeah.
Well, the other one was planning this future seven-car growth. And from that perspective, whilst it was extraordinarily stressful at the time, it was a great learning opportunity.
So, what relaunched in a way the brand? Was it the fact that you launched some new models, that you totally changed the way the company was run? Combination of these factors?
It's really difficult to pin it on one thing, but I think it's fair to say that creating revenue, number one, was key, and we created revenue by creating specials. And at the time, it was the specials. Cars like the GT12, the GT8, the Vulcan, they're all short runs.
Yes.
Vulcan was 24 cars for £1.8 million each. Even the GT12, which was £250,000 each, just 100 units. They at that time they were created in order to generate cash.
Yes.
And that cash was then being used directly into the funding of the new models. What's interesting about that is that has now become a systematic part of our business. So the customers want our specials because they're the new collectibles of the future. So something that was born out of necessity has now become a fundamental part of the business. Strand number one, which was create revenue. Strand number two was reduce cost. I mean, this is not rocket science, right?
Yeah, sure.
Increase revenue, reduce cost.
Yeah, of course. Even for a luxury brand.
Even for a luxury brand. So there was no culture of cost reduction within the company. That doesn't work in any kind of company, but especially in a car company that is constantly being forced to address new regulations and new customer demands. So even to keep your cost neutral during life, you need annually to reduce cost in order to find headroom to pay for new regulation and for new feature. And we didn't have that. During the life of our cars, the cost was going up. Generally speaking, the price was coming down. Guess what? You lose money. Where we are now is that the price is continuously growing up and the cost is continuously going down. So we're now into a virtuous circle, but getting there was hard work. And of course, there was also the SG&A costs. This is the cost of running the business, and we refinanced our debt to a lower interest rate. We had to close our final salary pension schemes to reduce the risk, and we had to restructure, and of course some people unfortunately lost their job. When I joined the company was 2,200 people. Within 6 months it reduced to 1,800. The cost saving is good. The good news, however, is today we're over 3,000 people. So success has allowed us to grow in proportion, but not to an excess.
So the automotive industry is going through a major transformation with autonomous cars, electric cars. How is it affecting Aston Martin?
Well, we're not immune to it, and I don't think that we should be immune to it. 105 years ago, Lionel Martin and Mr. Bamford were forward-looking people. They weren't looking in the rear view. So I think within the company we always should consider what's coming in the future. The new technology doesn't scare me, but it does change the way that one has to think about the car, and in particular think about the powertrain. There are 4 mega trends in the car industry: connected car, autonomous car, ride sharing, and electric car. And we have to consider all of them. Some are more relevant than others. In our industry, I think car sharing is not so relevant. Connected car, however, it's a must. Fundamental must. It's a hygiene factor. Autonomous, look, in Lagonda brand, where today probably the customer is in a Rolls Royce or a Bentley, they're being driven by a chauffeur. So the carbon chauffeur is replaced by a digital chauffeur. It's probably acceptable. Aston, on the other hand, is a very much a consumer-driven car, and I think we'll be late for introduction for autonomy, simply because the customer doesn't want it. Electrical or EVs, on the other hand, Lagonda will be the first EV brand, luxury brand. So we don't plan to put any gasoline engines into Lagonda brand. It'll be 100% EV brand. On the other hand, Astons will continue to use V-configured engines, probably moving towards hybridization. Certainly by the next generation of cars, middle of the 2020s, all Astons will have hybrid as an option, possibly a standard, and all Lagondas will be 100% EV. So we're not immune, but we have to think about how our customer perceives it and wants it, and apply it when it's necessary.
Do you think there is room for other luxury car like Aston Martin, or it would be impossible to?
I mean, my view is luxury is very difficult, and it's very difficult, which means that the barrier to entry is very high. I mean, you think about most of the luxury car companies, and I'm talking about true luxury, not premium mass companies, of which we think that there are 6, and Lagonda will be number 7. They've all been around for 70 to 100 years. You can't create that history from nowhere. So the barrier to entry is high. The road to exclusivity is not easy. It's hard work to make a car. You see a lot of startups now bringing electric cars. Electric cars are simpler than gasoline cars, but they all need mass, they all need volume. Nobody thinks to introduce a new car company that's only making 10,000 cars a year. So no, I think if anything, my prediction is if there are 7 luxury car companies in 2021, within 10 years, more likely to be 6 than 8.
I see. Now, the luxury is also rare, right? So how do you set, the level of production? Because I think Ferrari produce,
around
60,000 or 80,000.
No, Ferrari is about 8,000.
8,000, sorry. Yeah. And you're around
we're this year will be maybe 6.4. So it's a good year for us.
But would you be ready to move up to 8,000 like Ferrari does?
Yeah. Look, it's a good point. Nobody knows where the level of exclusivity lies. What do we know? We know that the previous management of Ferrari said the level was 7,000. Now they're making 8, even perhaps 9. And in the midterm, probably they'll go to 15. We know that Bentley make around 12,000. So we know they're luxury. So we know the level is not 12. And we intend to make 14,000 within our plan. Now, what's interesting is in our history, we used to make 7,000 by 3 cars, 2.3 thousand cars per type. In future, we'll make 14,000 by 7 cars, 2,000. So in that sense, per car, rarity is increasing, not decreasing. We think 15,000 is enough. After that, our assumption is it starts to become less rare. We know the level of rarity is not 40,000. Maserati is a premium company, not a luxury company. We know it's not 250,000. Porsche is a premium company, not a luxury company. And we can see that in the multiple on the EBITDA that the capital markets give us credit for. So somewhere between 12 and 40 is okay. We rather think it's more like 14,000 is the level of exclusivity. But nobody knows, and it will change over time, because as the rich get richer and as the rich move east, perhaps there's room there for more volume in the future.
Yeah, because that was my next question. Is that what's the impact of China on your business? Must be huge, no?
It will be huge. China is a country that doesn't consume sports cars. They do consume luxury, and it's growing very quickly. So the SUV that we'll produce, for example, and we'll unveil it next year, this should be huge in China.
And why an SUV?
Well,
is it compatible with luxury?
I think it's as compatible as, the answer is very clearly yes, because Bentayga, Bentley, the Lamborghini Urus, the Rolls-Royce Cullinan,
and it works.
They're all SUVs and they all appear to be working. So the answer is clearly it does work. I think if you look at the raison d'etre of Aston, what do we stand for? Very simple. We aspire to make the most beautiful cars in the world. Now notice there it doesn't say aspire to make the most beautiful sports cars. We aspire to make the most beautiful cars in the world. So as long as our sports cars or our GT cars or our SUV cars or our sedans are the most beautiful that there is, it's okay for us. That's what we do. So we do the most beautiful cars, low volume, rare, always one more customer than supply. That's what defines Aston Martin. And I think as we look to the east, we also have to be progressive. For the Chinese customer, which by the way today is 50% female, very different to the West, they've grown up perceiving cars to be SUVs. So essentially with our SUV, what we're doing is we're reinventing the GT car. The GT car for you and me is a sports car. The GT car for the Chinese consumer, it'll still be very sporty looking. It'll still go very fast. It'll still handle very well. But the format is more SUV.
I see. Well, thank you for a great insight. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
My great pleasure. Thank you.